Zootopia 2 is the long-awaited sequel to the 2016 movie that was a massive success and very critically and also loved by audiences pretty much everywhere. That movie was a huge surprise, and so I was very interested in seeing what they would do for a second one. This takes place pretty much immediately after the events of the first movie, where Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde, once again voiced by Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman, are doing their best to keep crime off the streets, working as partners at the Zootopia Police Department. However, things get complicated when Gary the Snake arrives on the scene, voiced by Ki-hee Kwan, and this is incredibly crazy because a snake hasn't been seen in Zootopia for a very long time. And so Judy and Nick have to figure out exactly what's going on with Gary, what exactly his intentions of being in Zootopia are, as well as uncover a conspiracy surrounding him that could lead to potential catastrophe. That is the spoiler-free version that I'm giving you of the plot synopsis. There's a lot more that happens in Zootopia 2, but I don't think that it's in a lot of the marketing, so I'm just going to keep shut about that. But going into it, like I mentioned, I was very interested in seeing it because I loved the first movie. That was one of my favorite movies of that year, but also it's one of my favorite Disney animation movies of the last 15 years. I think it's a really well-told story with some excellent characters, some great comedy, some really great sequences, and excellent animation. But I also find it to be incredibly poignant, and it does some really interesting stuff with its themes, especially when addressing things like racial discrimination and inequality and injustices that are taking place in the city in some really interesting and effective ways for especially younger audiences who are being taught a lot more about acceptance in the world. So I was wondering what Zootopia 2 was going to end up being like, and I am pleased to report it's pretty good. This is a very solid sequel to the first movie, and it does carry forward a lot of stuff that I mentioned just now about that first movie into the sequel, which makes it as strong as it is. Once again, it is spectacularly animated. It looks visually tremendous, and whether it comes to the environments that are on display, the different ecosystems that you're getting to see, because if you remember the first movie, there's a lot of different environments at play and some very unique things happening when it comes to the surroundings, where everything is used in very innovative ways. A lot of that is present over here too, especially as you're getting to know sides of Zootopia and the world surrounding everything, which are things that we haven't really seen before, especially now that reptiles are becoming more a part of the story with Gary's arrival. You get to see the animators really have a ball with the action sequences and with some of the banter and interactions between characters. And it's just really creative, and like that word's gonna keep coming up a lot. And I really like that. And the characterization, once again, across the board is really great. This one revolves quite a bit around Judy and Nick's relationship because that's advancing quite a bit in this one. But as things are happening professionally, there are also moments where it feels like there are things that are not being said between them, and there is some strains that are coming up along the way, and how that is explored as well, because despite all that, there is a love that is there between them. Once again, really, really well done. And now that you're seeing the next step in that, Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman are both really, really terrific over here. And there's some great comedy between them. Once again, some really great back and forth conversations, some really fun ones early on, which got a lot of laughs out of me. But when it has to hit emotionally, it hits those beats quite nicely too. There's a couple of times in the later part of the movie where they're having a one-to-one, and it does sort of sweep you up. Gary the Snake, okay, like I mentioned, Ki-hee Kwan, wonderful in the role. And as you learn more about him, which takes a while, you get to him eventually. What you get with him, I found to be incredibly poignant, and there's a very compelling story around him as to why he is in Zootopia and how things are going down for his reason to be there, like why this is so important. And I think how they accomplished that as well, really, really solid. And I loved his character. He did a wonderful job, Ki-hee Kwan, again. And he had a lot of fun voicing this, you can tell. A lot of the supporting characters for the first movie are back, like Chief Bogo, voiced again by Idris Elba. He's there for a brief amount of time. There's a family that's over here, which is trying to handle some things. One of them is you spend a lot of time with a character who is the son in that family, voiced by Andy Samberg. He was pretty entertaining too. And again, the dynamic dynamics that are explored over here, very maturely done. And there are things happening which do try to be more than just your average animated fare, much like the first movie tried. And that also applies to some of the themes that are on display. But the first movie dealt a lot with, like I said, a lot of discrimination and racial injustices, and those are in here too. But there's also aspects of ethnic cleansing that are put in here. Like there's an entire subplot surrounding eradication of a species. And I was kind of surprised by the fact that they actually went to some places in that. And it's, again, very mature. But for younger audiences, like, to just really, again, going into that aspect of acceptance and, wanting to be there for others and help others, even if it feels like it's not always, from a distance, it doesn't feel like it's enough, but it still means so much, to be able to want to do something about it. That's something that I think the movie does portray quite wonderfully. And again, very intense themes for a movie like this, but I think they did a good job over there. This is a far more action-packed movie too. There's a lot of very kinetic sequences in here. I mean, the opening of the movie, you're right into the action, and it doesn't really let up until the end of the movie. It moves at a frighteningly fast pace. It moves at an incredibly fast pace, and it doesn't let up at all. There's a great score from Michael Giacchino that layers the entire thing once again. Shakira as Gazelle is once again in this movie. In the first movie, she had that song, Try Everything, which became a massive radio success as well. Here she has a song called Zoo. Which one do you like more? You'll have to be the judge for that. But, I think they both did were pretty solid music numbers. And yeah, I mean, overall, I think a lot of things do work. As for issues, the one thing that I will say is that if you remember the first movie, and if you remember certain things in terms of the plot structure and how things do go down, there is a lot of that in here as well. It is a little familiar, and there are points where, you might expect something to happen, and that might happen because you saw it in the first movie. They do replay a few of the hits, and it makes it a little less unpredictable as a result. So sometimes a thing happens and you're like, okay, I feel like then we're gonna head into this scene now. Something like this is gonna play out. And it does feel a little less fresh as a result compared to what the first movie was, and maybe not quite as effective in those regards, especially when it comes to the overall narrative at hand. That being said, though, because it's still very effective when it comes to its thematic handling and its characterization, it makes Zootopia 2 still a very effective sequel, and one that I really enjoyed watching, and one that I think is very much worthy of what the first movie did. It may not be as strong as the first movie was, but it's a damn solid sequel, and one that I will check out once again pretty soon, hopefully. I'm gonna give Zootopia 2 an 8.5 out of 10. Really surprised by how much I actually liked it, because I won't lie to you, I did kind of go in a little skeptically to this one. I just hadn't seen much going in. Surprisingly, not a single trailer for it played before anything that I saw as of late. Like, I walked into Elio a little late, maybe it played before that, maybe I missed it. But beyond that, I feel like it just wasn't anywhere, so I was very curious what was going on. But it turned out to be good. Guys, thank you very much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very, very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.